Memorial Day is widely recognized as time to honor the fallen soldiers of the United States military. It is a day steeped in patriotic traditions, parades, ceremony, and solemn decorations of graves with flags and flowers. Many Americans mark the unofficial beginning of summer with this holiday, yet few know the full story behind its origin. The Memorial Day most are familiar with first officially observed in 1868 following the Civil War. However, a significant and often overlooked aspect of the history can be traced to a group of formerly enslaved African Americans in Charleston, South Carolina. Their actions, born from the deep wounds of slavery and the collective grief of the Civil War, played a key role in shaping the day that will later become Memorial Day. This story, though seldom told, deserves careful reflection and consideration. It reveals not only the strength of people, but also the role that African Americans played in shaping the national traditions and commemorations long before they were fully recognized as citizens. In the spring of 1865, Charleston, a city that had been one of the most fervent centers of Confederacy, laid in ruin. Among the many atrocities committed during the war was the horrible treatment of Union soldiers who had been captive and held in Confederate prison camps. One such camp was the former Washington Race Course in Charleston, which had been repurposed to hold Union prisoners of war. At least 250 Union soldiers died there due to brutal conditions. Neglect, disease, and starvation took their toll. Their bodies were buried in a mass grave behind the grandstands of the racecourse. As the war came to a close and the Confederacy surrendered, newly free African Americans in Charleston felt a deep desire to honor their fallen Union soldiers whose sacrifice had contributed to their own liberation. Their motivation was not just a simple act of mourning, but a profound expression of gratitude and solidarity. For these men and women, the Union soldiers had fought and died for the freedoms they had so long been denied. Recognizing this, their resolve to give these men the proper burial they deserve, turning a place of death and despair into one of remembrance and dignity. On May 1st, 1865, a group roughly of 10,000 people, including free African Americans, teachers, missionaries, and a small number of white Charlestonians, gathered at the Washington Race Course in what can be described as one of the earliest Memorial Day commencements. The bodies of the Union soldiers were exhumed from the mass grave, and each was given a proper burial in individual graves, meticulously marked to honor their identity. This act alone was an incredible assertion of humanitarianism, a statement that the soldiers, regardless of their race, orientation, military rank, deserved to be remembered and respected. The event was not a somber, silent affair. Rather, it was a vibrant, joyful celebration of freedom and sacrifice. The attendees, held by thousands of school children, marched around the racecourse, singing hymns, patriotic songs such as John Brown Body and the Star-Spangled Banner. Black ministers delivered moving sermons, and a group of Black Union soldiers performed military drill to honor those fallen comrades. The event culminated in decorating the soldiers' graves with flowers, a poignant gesture that would later become a central tradition of Memorial Day across the nation. This ceremony in Charleston was remarkable not only for its scale, but for the profound symbolism it carried. For these African Americans, it was a powerful public assertion of their place in the nation's history and their stake in the future. They were claiming their role in the Civil War and in the nation's path towards freedom, at a time where their citizenship and humanity were still being highly contested. This event was a precursor to the Decoration Day commencement that was spread across the country in the years to follow. Yet it's often overshadowed by the later establishment of the Memorial Day by the federal government. The origins of Memorial Day are frequently attributed to General John A. Logan, the commander of the Grand Army of the Republic, who called for the National Day of Remembrance in 1868, 3 years after Charleston event. Logan's cause was answered by communities across the North, many of which had already begun holding their own commemorations for the Union soldiers. While Logan's proclamation was certainly influential in formalizing the holiday, it is essential to recognize that the African American community of Charleston had already set a precedent. What makes this early commemoration even more striking is its context. The immediate post-war period, known as Reconstruction, was a time of profound uncertainty and violence for newly freed African Americans. In the South, white supremacy groups such as the Ku Klux Klan were already organized to suppress Black political power and maintaining racial hierarchy through terror and intimidation. Despite these dangers, the freedmen of Charleston choose to publicly celebrate their newfound freedom and honor the Union soldiers who had fought for it. These acts of defiance against the racial terror of the time made these actions all more courageous and significant. The erasure of the history is telling. As the nation moved into the late 19th and early 20th century, the narrative of the Civil War was shifted. The lost cause ideology, which romanticized the Confederacy and downplayed the role of slavery, gained prominence in the Southern memory. As part of the broader cultural shift, the contributions of African Americans to the war efforts and the shaping of the post-war traditions were marginalized. Memorial Day, too, was reframed as more universal, less politicized commemoration of American soldiers' sacrifice, largely disconnected from the Civil War origins and the crucial role that Black Americans had played. The Charleston commemoration, with its deeply politicized and racial undertones, did not fit neatly in its sanitized narrative of nation's unity and reconciliation. Instead, the holiday became more about honoring the dead in a general sense, with less attention paid to the specific struggles and contribution of African Americans during and after the war. This erasure mirrors broad patterns in American history where contributions of Black Americans have often been overlooked, ignored, and minimized in telling of the nation's story. In recent years, historians and scholars have worked to bring the Charleston event back into public consciousness. David W. Blight, a historian at Yale University, is amongst those who have helped uncover and share the forgotten chapters in American history. Blight's research, which draws on contemporary newspaper accounts and firsthand testimonies, has helped shine a light on the origins of Memorial Day that has long been buried. Through his work and that of others, we are reminded that African Americans are not passive observers of the Civil War and its aftermath, but active participants in shaping its legacy. Reflecting on this history invites us to reconsider the meaning of Memorial Day. It is not just a day to honor those who died in service to their country, but also a day to reflect on the complex and often painful history of service. The Civil War was a war fought over the very meaning of freedom and citizenship in the United States, and Memorial Day, at its best, should remind us of that struggle. The story of Charleston Memorial Day reminds us, add depth to this reflection. It reminds us that the fight for freedom did not end with the war, and that the work of honoring the dead is also about affirming the values for which they fought. Today's climate, as the United States grapples with the ongoing racial tensions and questions about historical history, the story of the Black Memorial Day in Charleston offers valuable lessons. It reminds us that history is not a static narrative, but a contested space, one where different voices and stories must be acknowledged. It also challenges us to think about who gets to be remembered and how. As we lay flowers on the grave and fly flags on Memorial Day, it is worth remembering those early African American celebrants who honored the Union soldiers were also making a powerful statement about their place in the nation. The overlooked history of the Black Memorial Day is not just a footnote to the holiday we reserve today. It is a fundamental part of the story, one that speaks to the enduring struggle of freedom, justice, and recognition in the United States. By bringing this history to light, we honor not only the Union soldiers who died in the Civil War, but also the African Americans who understood, perhaps better than anyone, what sacrifice meant. It is time that their contributions be remembered as a central part of Memorial Day history, not just for their sake, but for the sake of the nation's collective memories and future. We hope this deep dive into the overlooked history of Black Memorial Day give you some new insights into how African Americans shaped this crucial part of our nation's history. Memorial Day as we know it today carries layers of meaning that goes beyond what many of us have been taught. The story of those freedmen in Charleston reminds us of the powerful role Black people have played in honoring the following, standing up for freedom, and shaping the traditions we still follow. If you enjoyed this video and want to hear more about stories about Black history in the military, make sure you hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. Click the notification bell so you don't miss future episodes. Leave a comment down below, and also what part of the story resonated with you. And if there's any topics you'd like for us to cover, please let us know. Thank you, and thank you for your service. If you know anyone in the military, please share.